Hello, folks. Welcome in. As you know, my name is Dina Giuliano, founder of Cashmere Hands, Need the Body to Balance, Massage and Yoga Boutique. And I am here to welcome my guest, Meghan Helms, who is a long dear friend for quite some time now. And she is also a Reiki practitioner, yoga instructor, and certified hypnotherapist. Welcome, Meghan. Thank you for taking the time out to be with me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad we finally got this going.
I know, here we are. So let's serenade our people with some juicy information to help them on their journey. And we'll jump right in with the questions that I have for us. How
Perfect.
long have you been practicing Reiki, energy yoga, and hypnotherapy? And what initially drew you into this field?
Um, I started with, gosh, it's been a long time. Many years ago, my best friend introduced me to yoga. And I had been, I think, either going through my divorce or at the end of it. My kids were little. I needed to get out of the house. And she's like, I think you'll like this. So I went. And I just got hooked with yoga ever since. So I feel like that's what really opened up the door into this world. Because it led me to Reiki first, actually. And I started doing Reiki in 2015, teaching yoga in 2016. No idea, honestly. I just heard you kind of feel that call and you feel drawn to things, and I
Oh,
just
yeah.
kind of followed the little path, and I don't know. To be honest, I don't have a huge epiphany or a huge aha moment or a big sign. I found myself here.
Do you feel like it found you?
I feel like in my mind, I see it all just kind of sitting there like it took you long enough, but we're glad you're here.
I love that feeling.
Yeah, because it's been all my life anyway. And so it made so many things make sense along the way of, listening to people's stories and offering what I thought was just basically good advice or just advice, and knowing that it came from somewhere deeper, it all made sense. So
So can you see how this profession has helped you with understanding your divorce or
oh, it's
coping?
helped me understand. Yeah, yeah. It's helped me understand not even just that, but how I deal with things in light of that, because of that, in spite of that. Any other situations in life. I do work with a lot of grief and loss because I've had a lot of grief and loss in my life. And it's really shaped how, I would say, how I would mindfully look at it now.
Mm.
Um, and it's helped, yeah, it's definitely helped an entire lot, and then helped me knowing why and how I'm meeting people where they are, that there was a greater purpose other than just like, yeah, we went through the same thing. And how I can use my experiences in life to really help everybody else, and then just finding deeper ways to help and more meaningful ways to help, really.
Yeah, that sounds deep.
Yeah.
And that is it's powerful on that emotional level. In it's a heightened awareness. It
Hmm.
sounds like it's inner work, self-healing work to
Yeah.
understand like external circumstances, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Oh,
Which
absolutely.
brings me right to the next question. In your experience, how does Reiki and energy yoga facilitate the process of emotional and physical healing? And what role does energy play in restoring balance to the individual's well-being?
I think it's so beneficial. However we think about energy, everything comes from energy. Lights turn on because of energy. We get out of bed because of energy. We don't do something because we're lacking energy. So it's really all how energy is moving in and around us. And so what Reiki is really just helping do is just allowing you to in a jokingly way, just relax, because we have so much stress built up, and, just using that light touch, or just like, I hear you, I see you, can really just bring that stress level down to where we can really not focus on so much what that physical hurt is, or even that emotional hurt. We're not so zeroed in on what that pain is and what's causing that pain. We can really let that pain kind of subside a little bit so we can, in a more mindful way, in a healthier way, safely start looking at those things and know why it's causing us this pain. Just like if we bump into something, or if we fall down, we get some ice. So, that ice touches that and it relaxes it and it starts doing its thing. Same thing with energy work and Reiki is, if you're going through a hard time, sometimes just putting that hand on a shoulder really just lets everything just come down, and everything, you stop fighting it, because we don't want to fight anything anymore. Fighting it holds on to all that pain and all that hurt, and it's really, in the end, not worth it.
And emphasizing on the touch, as you know, as a licensed massage therapist, I see that immediately with my clients. Just like the minute I kind of stroke through their hair or go through a little, even just a gentle touch, how it subsides them.
Yep.
So with the physical touch, and to emphasize on Reiki energy, not many people know or understand what Reiki energy is. So how could we explain it to our viewers in like a layperson's term?
I would say with Reiki energy, it's almost like going in and cleaning a house. So like, say I am the house cleaner and I walk through and I look through and the kitchen looks like it's in good shape. It's functioning. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Walk into the bedroom. It's super, super cluttered. The living room is in whatever shape it's in. So every room has its function, just like every part of our body has its function. And sometimes they're not functioning at its best level. I don't want to say wrong, because it's not, it's not, that's all about perspective. And so sometimes our energy gets stuck, just like, the sink gets filled with dishes. How are you going to have room in the kitchen? Do the dishes. We clear that out. So the same thing with Reiki energy. Reiki is just a form of energy work to help clear those those stuck spots of energy that's keeping us from doing what it is that we want to do and what we're meant to do. So whether it's motivation, whether it's healing a past hurt, a loss, whether it's just being tired, maybe it's hormonal, maybe it's sadness, maybe it's just being tired, or just regular everyday stress. I mean, there's like, the list can go on forever. It's like you just name something and,
Right. I often find myself describing even my massages and the Reiki energy work like a rotor-rooter, like
Yeah.
kind of cleaning out the tubes, right?
Yes.
So that
Yes.
everything kind of functions and flows, and it helps with blood flow and
Yep.
mental clarity and even the breath. Do you
Yeah.
instruct breathing work in your practice?
I do. I do. I don't go super in depth because there's not a lot of time in a class or in a classroom setting. With clients on private sessions, and either whether it's Reiki or yoga, I will do a little bit more breathing because there's more time to it. But I do love love the rotor-rooter thing, because I love metaphors, and so sometimes I'll use the image of a drain pipe, and when it's clogged up, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's dripping through, but it's not great.
I think plumbers would get a kick out of it.
Oh
They would
yeah.
probably understand it very
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, I like things that make sense. And because sometimes what we do can be very easy to understand, sometimes it's not. So I really love using just like regular images of everyday life that is like, oh, okay, I want to unclog my pipes and I'm a drain.
Right.
Yeah. It's gross,
Which
but hey.
it's true. And I mean, like when I'm sitting here right now I'm always observing my physical body to see how I feel. And I do feel like a tightness in my lower back. That's from working hunched over. And I know physical movements I need to do in yoga in order to help that. But I also understand the energetic part of it because I've been doing this just as long as you are too.
Yeah.
And with people that are watching us right now, I think it's important for them to hear what we're saying so that they could be an observer to their physical body to know where it's stuck. Because
Yeah.
when you have you noticed in your practice that when you work on your clients, they become more aware of themselves.
Yeah.
I've
Almost
seen that.
immediately, most times, yeah. Usually the times if I don't see that, um, they're just fighting it. Some people are more guarded. And again, that's not a right or wrong thing or a good or bad thing. We just are how we are. And sometimes if we've been guarded for so long, we don't know that it's okay to be aware, and we're not sure what it means to be aware. So it's kind of like a practice. So
Sure.
sometimes people understand it's like, okay, something hurts because like maybe my heart's hurting because I'm sad. Maybe, my back is hurting because I'm afraid of something. Or maybe, I need to like swallow. I need to swallow a bit more because maybe I'm trying to hold something back, whether I
Yes.
should or shouldn't, that can go both ways. But yeah, it was definitely almost always like you can notice that release. And sometimes it's just that,
To
and then,
let go.
yeah. And it's a beautiful thing to see. It's a beautiful thing to feel when we allow ourselves to feel that too.
Yes, to receive it and
Yeah.
give yourself permission to relax,
Yeah.
which in society, it's hard. Society, I feel like it pushes us to rush and get it done yesterday.
Oh yeah, I call them badge of honors. The badge of honor to where it's like, like, oh, I went to I was sick as a dog all week, but I worked every single day. I worked 70 hours this week and all these kind of things. And it's like, we got to stop rewarding ourselves for this because we're not getting anything,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
And you see the burnout coming faster.
Oh
Hmm.
oh, yeah.
Which brings us into, I'm curious your opinion.
Mhm.
And how does your practices of hypnotherapy and energy work contribute to people's ability to engage in the healthier and more mindful relationships, not only with themselves, but with other people? So
Yeah.
hypnotherapy and then energy work. Do you do it in the same or separately?
Um, I feel like with any energy worker, whatever our modality is, whatever else we do, it slips out a little bit. So I don't when I'm doing a hypnosis session, I don't necessarily use Reiki, but it's still there and involved
Sure.
because it's very much me and what I provide, um,
Hmm.
or share, I should say. With a hypnosis session, it really anything that's bringing us into awareness of ourself allows us to, in my opinion, become more aware of everything around us and really look at things from a more compassionate place to where we don't have to necessarily, we're not going to like everybody. Not everybody's going to like us, but we can understand, okay, so-and-so is being a little snappier today because they're being really stressed out about something, or I don't know why they are. Or the same thing about myself. If I'm being a little bit snappy one day, it's like, okay, I'm just really tired. I need to kind of check myself a little bit and be more aware of that. Um, and with hypnosis, it's really, I just came into hypnosis this year, really. So I'm not brand new at it, but it's still nice and shiny and I love it. But it's great because I like to say it's using yourself against you. We
Mm.
all know, and especially when we seek out these forms of modality, whether it's hypnosis, Reiki, massage, yoga, there's that little piece of us that says we need something more. Something's not working. I need to find something. And so we play around, whatever it is. And hypnosis allows us to really tap into that part, that subconscious brain that knows all of the things and knows what we need to do to get to what we want, but it's being guarded by
Mm.
our brain is a very simple thing and it wants to keep us safe. So if something hurts, don't do it. If something makes us tired, don't do it. So we're very guarded in that way. And if we're wanting to create positive change, if we're wanting to maybe um, do something new or remember an uncovered memory if it's safe to do so. Um, we have public speaking coming up and we're fearful of that. We want whatever it is, we can really tap into the subconscious mind where all that strength and that confidence is, and be able to bring that out to where instead of seeing like all these people around us are going to hear me talk and what if I stutter, we're going to see all these people and say, I see all these people and they're excited to hear what I have to say. And I say wonderful things or whatever it might be. So that's really why I love hypnosis, because it's more interactive and it's really working together to what it is that we want to do, because we know what we want. Sometimes we just need that help to see it and realize it.
With that, not many people are in tune with what the subconscious mind really is. Can you explain that a little bit?
I feel like in a weird way, the subconscious mind holds all of the things.
Yeah.
It's like, it's really, it's like I see it as our wants and our desires and our needs. And even if on the basic level of just to be seen and to be loved and to be heard and all of these things, to feel healthy, to feel freer in ourselves and, be happy. And so I feel like that subconscious mind is really just all the good stuff that's just being guarded and safe for whatever the reason is.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to risk, okay, well, what if we're not happy? It's like, well, what if we are? We can be. Or what if this is going to fail? Okay, well, what if it does? We try again. So it's all of the confidence and all of those things that really are just in our heart of hearts, to where it's like, I know I can fail. I know I'm going to be okay. And I know I can try again. But where our brain steps in to be like, oh yeah, but that's going to be a lot of effort.
Well, it sounds like the subconscious, from what I'm hearing, is like the blueprint, like our innate wiring. And then there's
it's
like
what keeps us going.
Right? Like sometimes I often hear it as like the autopilot of why we react and why we do things. And we have to get into really see what's written on this blueprint in order to understand how to, reevaluate, recreate, change, enhance, take away, to have that better way of living.
Yeah. And I think that's great. Yeah.
Right. Overcome the fear of like public speaking, or, dating is coming to my mind, like people going up to people and talking, like everything kind of shifted a little bit. And then when I hear you say the brain, is it right for me to share maybe that, like the brain, like the dialogue in our conscious mind can come from, our forming years, people, places, things, environments, society that put these ideas or conversations in our mind to think are real.
Yeah.
And then it becomes somewhat of what we feel is our integrity. And then it kind of limits us from what we really are in our subconscious mind, which is high level.
Yeah. Yeah. And the subconscious mind is like what knows the truth. So how our brain keeps us safe is it's those stories that happen one time that we think are the truth. Like say, somebody who's afraid of dogs. They've been afraid of dogs for 30 years, their entire life. Why are they afraid of that dog? Well, when they were 5, they got bit. So from then on, dogs are scary. So while that truthful thing did happen, it turned into the truth of all things. So all dogs are scary, instead of it just happening that one time, to where, because I did have a fear of dogs growing up too. I don't even know. Sometimes fears are just implanted us from our parents or from society or whatever. We don't even know why we're afraid of those things. So yeah, so those stories create the reality, whether it's really true or not. The subconscious brain or the conscious brain taps into that, to where it's like, well, that happened one time. We want to make sure that doesn't happen again. So stay away from all dogs.
Interesting.
Doesn't matter how big or fluffy or how tiny or whatever. Let's be safe. And then the studio is like, okay, cool. We're safe now. Even though we know that's not necessarily right. So we want to reprogram that to what is true, to where that did happen that one time and it was bad, but it's not every time.
Right. Interesting, right? How many hypnotherapy, Because I get often asked this too. Well, how many hypnotherapy sessions are going to take for me to be X, Y, and Z? What would be your answer to that?
I think everything always depends. Um, it depends on, I think, in my opinion, if you're working on something that's really, really tough, say like weight management, smoking cessation, something along those lines. I would say, I think I have like a program that's at least four times to really drill in the positive change that we're wanting to create and rebuilding that confidence, so to speak. Sometimes one is good. Um,
Mm,
and sometimes people just need maintenance, depending on what it is. So Reiki is good for maintenance for the most part. You just come once a month and you're just taking care of yourself. You're taking some downtime. But with hypnosis, sometimes it can take a couple times because the first time of everything, you don't know what to expect. Um,
right.
maybe you're guarded, whether you know you're guarded or not. Sometimes people are super susceptible and one time and they're good for a bit and they just go on to the next thing. So it really depends on what we're working with and what we're working on.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Um, Prior, you were talking about how you worked with a lot of grief and loss.
Mhm.
What kind of success have you seen from your practice with those clients that experience grief and loss? Especially now during the holidays, I'm seeing
Yeah.
a lot of the emotions rise too. How can we help
Yeah,
them?
yeah, because because the holidays always kind of bring up things, and then there's always like, I think I wrote a blog one time about the first and how the first is always going to be the hardest because it's always going to be that first holiday, birthday, anniversary, XYZ
Mhm.
without so and so there. And the change, what I've seen with the people that I've worked with is not, well, acceptance in the sense of this has happened, this person is gone. Not that it's okay that they're gone, but it's okay that I'm happy, even though they're not here. And it doesn't mean that they're dishonoring them or their memory. I can be happy, even though mom, dad, brother, friend, son, daughter isn't here anymore. I can still be happy that they were, and I can be happy in my life now and still honor them. I
Mm,
don't have to be, because it used to be, the stages of grief. And as I've learned, there's no stages. And as we were growing up, it's like, okay, well, you go through stage one and you go through stage two. Well, what if you don't, how do you pass stage one? How do you get to stage two? How do you get to stage four? And if I've graduated stage five, am I done now? So,
right.
and so it's been an interesting study, and just personally how these things stay with you and these losses stay with you. I experienced my very first loss when I was 5, and all my life since then. And so we can honor our people and still smile every day. But then knowing when we do have a bad day and we do miss that person so much that, we feel like the life is not going to go on, it's okay to feel that way for that day. So I've seen also a lot of people feel normal in that roller coaster. It was like, okay, well, they've been gone for 20 years. Why am I still upset? You're just honoring them. And there's
So
no,
it's okay to still feel that years down the road. There's
oh
nothing
yeah.
wrong.
And nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, I know people who never cry a single day past the first day, and I know people that cry every year on the anniversary of that loss, and everywhere in between. Everybody just reacts differently. And there's that really awesome acceptance and awareness of everybody does react differently. And everybody does go on their life, or work with their grief and live with their grief differently. Some days are hard, some days are not. Um, you can still have hard days 20 years later. It doesn't
Right.
have to be, okay, you can only cry really, really hard within the first year. Then after that, let's be done, because whatever. And then also understanding that loss is not just people. We grieve all kinds of losses. We can grieve pets, that's like the next big thing. But then also we can grieve jobs. We can grieve phases of our life. We can grieve places that we've grown up. We moved down years ago from my hometown, and I had to grieve that loss as a kid. So we can grieve all kinds of things, not just people. Um, they all just, they obviously turn out a little bit differently depending on the situation, but grief is not linear. It's not, going to the next phase. It goes, you're here, you're there, you're all over the, it's a roller coaster. You're all over the place.
It seems to get easier though, as we become more aware of the emotion and accepting the emotion and not feeling that we have to suppress it or erase it or
Yeah.
not think about it anymore or be so strong over, grief and loss and sadness. Like all of our emotions are real
Yeah.
and it's important for us to feel them. And how do you share, like, it's important for us to feel all types of emotions to what point? Because some people will take over happiness, so to speak,
Mhm.
over sadness, and then it will sometimes distract them from living their life.
Yeah.
So, how do we help those people who go into, let's just say, with sadness and grief, if they're not working on themselves or accepting it and doing this awareness work, and it stops them into like a depression
Yeah.
and they feel so stuck? How do we throw our hand to them, or how do we help them revive or become aware, for lack of better words?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where it does become, even when it's hard, it's still easy when we do have that awareness of it, only because we know what to expect for the most part. We know what it doesn't, and it doesn't have to be like, okay, we know it's going to happen tomorrow, but we know
Right.
what to expect as far as like when feelings come up. So really having that awareness, and really where mindfulness plays in, to where if I'm having a really depressive day, knowing those signs of yourself, to where it's like, okay, I'm just feeling depressed today. I really just want to lounge on the couch and watch TV. When that starts spreading out and starts interfering in things, then you have to start being a little bit more aware, to where it's like, okay, I haven't got off the couch in 3 days. This is not good for me. Or you start getting into destructive behaviors, of whatever.
Mm.
And really being aware of if it's destructive or if it's not good for you, or if it's really, really unpleasant, versus just, I feel really sad today, I miss so and so. So helping them to be aware, to where while it's be more aware of what is kind of quote unquote normal for you. Um, and just really being aware of all the things around. So, and asking for help when you need it, or just saying, I really just need some quiet right now, or I really don't want to talk to anybody tonight. I'll call you tomorrow, check on me then. So it's really knowing just how you get affected by certain things and certain hardships, to where you know what to reach out for, or have somebody look out for you, if maybe you feel like you get to a point to where you're not aware of yourself, where you
Mm.
say, okay, okay, somebody can come in and say, okay, you need to get a shower, let's get some lunch or whatever. So really looking into being aware of the more mindful behaviors, to where maybe you need water instead of a glass of wine,
Right.
things like that as you're coming out of it, because you don't want to substitute, you don't want to use something that's not good for you, and mindfully and health wise not good for you, to cope with that. Because then that's going to become that story, and that's going to become the thing, to where every time I get upset, I have to have this. And
Breaking
then
the
we find,
cycle.
yeah, we
Yeah.
start unhealthy mind, an unhealthy cycle as far as that goes.
Wow.
And then we get ourselves into a place that's really, really difficult to get out of. So we really just
Sure.
want to be aware of just what's normal for us, and what is healthier for us in our lives. Like I said, nothing wrong with sitting around all day. So every now and then and just vegging out, you
That's
know,
right.
we need to do that sometimes.
We
We're
gotta
really
rest.
busy.
It's
Yeah,
important
whether
to
we're upset
rest.
or not, we
That's
still
right.
we need to relax. But yeah, when it starts getting to like little dangerous behaviors, sure. But anything that's just not good for us, you know.
Sometimes it's hard for people if they don't have good support systems.
Yeah.
So with all, let's my question to you is, Meghan, what can you offer our viewers right now that are experiencing some type of grief or loss or uncertainty or an emotion of some sort that they just want to understand a little bit more about within themselves? Is there something like an exercise you could leave them with?
Um, I feel like deep breathing is always the best thing. Deep breathing is always the first step, I feel like, to figuring anything out,
That's
even if it's just feeling if something is important to deal with or not.
right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've noticed that deep breathing, it just calms the fluctuations of the mind a little bit, just to
Yeah.
calm down the body, drop the shoulders, just kind of snap
Yeah.
out of the conversations of the mind for a minute and just focus on the breathing.
Yeah. Because we're also remembering too, because the brain is a simple machine and it's very simply programmed, even though it seems complicated, the brain can only do one thing at once. That's
I
it.
love how you said that. I wrote it down. The brain is a simple thing. I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
tell me
Yeah. Well,
more,
because I
because
told
we all
somebody
think it's
one
so
time, I
complex.
was in a conversation and they said, and this is quite a few years ago, and they said, and we were talking about the brain and all that kind of stuff. I said, the brain's pretty evil. And he's like, no, it's not. It's just trying to keep you safe. And it
Yeah.
was then I was like, oh, okay. So because it is a simple thing, we can simply, it's a simple program, we can simply unprogram as well and reprogram. So we think we can do all of these things at once, but really we can't. The brain can only do one thing at a time. So when we come into that deep breath, or, say if we're having an anxiety attack or something like that, we look around. I don't know if you've ever heard of name 5 true things. What do you see in this room?
Right.
Table, rug. These are true things that exist. So when we're focusing on that deep breath and we're really, and as we've been in every yoga class, always starts or ends that way, it's following that breath in and out, and you notice everything else come down and relax because the brain is only focusing on that breath because it can't do anything else in that moment.
I like how you mentioned the 5 true things, like the 5 senses.
Mm-hmm.
Like in this moment right now, what could I see, touch, feel, taste, hear?
Yeah.
Right?
If you're still in that panic state, do it again. 5
Mm.
more things.
Bringing the attention into the moment.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah. So when we fall, and then when we come into our breath, it's like, in a way, I always like to see it as bringing everything in and having that deep breath, almost find those little stuck places or those little places of tension or whatever. And it grabs it and then sends it out on your exhale. So much like a balloon. So if you think of your belly as a balloon and you're bringing in all that air and you're just expanding wide, and then as you exhale, it's deflating. So that way you also have that visual to go along with it. That's very, very helpful. And that deep breathing is really going to be the first step to anything, I think.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Always the breath of life. That's how we were born, right?
Yep.
First breath. Meghan,
Absolutely.
thank you. Is there something on your heart that you would like to leave, maybe words of wisdom with our viewers today before we end?
Mm. Oh gosh.
It's a lot, right?
It is. Really is. It really is. I would just say honestly, and I don't want to say especially because of the holidays, because it seems like you can only have anything going on during the holiday season. But for all year long, no matter whether it's just some random Tuesday or it's whatever day, just you're not alone.
Yeah.
Even when we think we are, even if you think you're the only one going through what you're going through, other people are as well. The details may be different, but we are not alone, and don't be afraid to either ask for help or ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for anything.
100%.
Yeah.
Reaching out is vital,
Yeah.
essential. It's a must, just like brushing our teeth. That
Yeah.
was,
So if you think you can think it's small, but it's not small to you.
amen. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
You're
And
very
Megan, how
welcome.
could everybody find you?
I'm not on Instagram too much, as far as interaction, but I'm on Instagram, mostly on Facebook. Um, what is it? Oh, just Inner Spirit Healing. And I can provide a link as well. Or
Okay.
my website, innerspirithealing.com. I do in-person sessions. I do virtual sessions as well. And I'm based in Indian Trail, but with virtual, I can do it anywhere. And I also do see clients in Mooresville as well.
Oh, folks, that's in North Carolina.
Yes. Yeah. North Carolina. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so happy we were able to talk. Thank you
Yes.
for taking the time with me today.
Thank you so
And
much.
I
It
look
was so
forward
great.
to, likewise, thank you. And we will reconnect real soon.
Absolutely.
Namaste.
Thank you.
You're welcome.